So over the Christmas holidays, I've been reading two books. The first one being Jared Diamond's Gun, Germs and Steels. And it's basically a short history of everything that happened within the last 13,000 years. But also, I've been reading Mein Kampf, which for those of you who aren't aware, it's Hitler's autobiography. And it's just sort of a placement of what was going on in his mind. And I've been really taking an interest in the alt-right recently because I know a lot about communism and the left, but not so much about the alt-right. So I thought I would do a bit of research. So I've even gone into some alt-right sites like Breitbart. But what I've been finding quite interesting is that their ideology tends to be more collectivized. So you're either an individualist or a collectivist. And what's funny is it comes up in Guns, Germs and Steels. It talks about different types of society. So you have tribes, and then of course it moves up. I mean, before that even you have a band, then a tribe, then a chieftain, and then a state. And a band is dozens of people living together. A tribe is when you have a few hundreds, maybe a couple of like in one big village. Thousands in a chiefdom, so that's when you have one or more fixed villages, and then a state, which is what we have today in most of our societies, which is fixed villages, cities, and classes and things like that. But it's been interesting as when you finally get to the state of a state, there's was basically four rules that Jared Diamond came up with that suggest how basically they managed to keep power, because as you increase your type of societies, the power starts to change. So you start off as an egalitarian, equal society, but eventually, as you go up, we have governments and things like that. And he basically tries to justify how they managed to keep their power. And one of the things I thought was quite interesting, which I'll do in this video, and I'll try and keep it short, was religion. And he basically states that they come up with the concept of religion as a way to keep the people together, because in these smaller societies, you sort of know each other. When you're in a band and a tribe and there's a few hundred people, you sort of know everyone in that society, so you don't really have much of an issue. He does go and say there are flaws, but we'll avoid that for now. But you'll tend to know them, so you're not gonna like murder them, or like it's not gonna happen as much. Whereas, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, he's the local farm, he does the crops for us, or he does tattoos or things like that. But in a bigger state, when there's like 50,000 people, you're not going to know all those 50,000 people. So you're going to be, why is he earning less than me, or why am I earning more than him? I don't know a lot about him. So basically, they come up with the idea of religion to basically connect the people. So what the leaders of these tribes do is they come up with an ideology of religion, and they use it to justify the kleptocracy. And a kleptocracy is basically, why they're taking things like from them. As it becomes a bigger society, they begin, the power shift, so that people start to have power. So people higher up then start, using things like taxes. So this religion is to justify it. And so then these supernatural beliefs, they start to think, oh, okay, well, if it's a divine, like for instance, the divine right of kings is a good example. There's a reason for it. We let this guy be so high up in society, so he can make the rain fall, or things like that. Now, of course, as time has gone on, religion's sort of started to die out. But what I think is quite interesting is the fact that you can use these ideas, and you can use it to help understand how people work today. So although people might not have emphasis might not be so strong on religion, when looking at the alt-right, they still are a collectivized group. That doesn't mean they're completely brainwashed and they all just do what they all do the same, but that they have something that connects them. So for the alt-right's sake, it's the white race, it's about protecting white culture, that sort of thing. So this ideology becomes so powerful that people almost get blinded by it when it comes to religions, because it also gives people a justification for sacrificing their life. So for instance, if you say our religion grants eternal life, if you do X, so if you fight in a war and you die, it doesn't matter because you're doing it for the gods or things like that. People will tend to do it because they have an ideology. So even if they die, they know that they're also protecting their fellow man, their fellow woman. That they're willing to sacrifice for this sort of group. Now, the thing is, as well, it's sort of patriotic as well. So it's the negative consequence of patriotism is the fact that you then end up getting fanatics. So if we were to look at Islam, for example, Now, if we look at ISIS and terrorist attacks, okay, then we go hashtag not all Muslims before everyone starts getting all annoyed, but but there are a small group of Muslims, and you get this in every group. You're always going to get some ideologue. But if we're going to use Muslims example for the terrorist, they're going to do it because they believe that by blowing up a building or by attacking people, that they're going to be granted eternal life, and they're going to have, I think it's 27 virgins. To be fair, one of the people I actually listened to was talking about this. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It can also be, basically it's like heaven. If the Christians who are listening, it's whatever they want really. It's like it's amazing. So that's why they'll end up doing it. And so it basically explains the problem with it is that, and it also explains wars. And for instance, you have the what's it called? The Crusades is a good example where Christian ideology was fighting against Islamic ideology. But anyway, I'm going to go back to the alt-right. So I think, to be fair to the alt-right, is they get a lot of bad press. Now, I'm not supporting them in any way. I'm just trying to give a balanced view here, because from what I've been reading in the news, I tended to, from what limited knowledge I did know, it tended to be more negative. Now, from listening to alt-right and going on to alt-right websites, and I'm still no expert on this, and if there's anyone who's alt-right actually listen to this and I've said anything wrong, feel free to correct me. But they tend not to be, they are concerned about Jews and the media, and them, having a lot of power and influence. And this is true. There is a lot of Jewish presence in the media, whether they are, controlling and manipulating and causing problems for the white race. That's I'm not going to go on that, but that's what their beliefs are. So, and they believe that they want to preserve the white race. As I said, it's a collectivist sort of mentality. But all this exterminating thing, it's like a fringe group on top of the fringe. So the alt-right, that you'd say, would be fringe of the right, but there's a fringe group. It's like, I think it's something like 3% who actually believe in exterminating Jews. They'd be quite happy for them to have their own sort of, go back to Israel, for example. They would encourage that. They're quite happy to. And really, their key main goal is to have their own little white ethno-state. So again, this is their own state, their own thing, and they're quite happy to trade with people, but they just want their little white place, the place with just white people. They're not, they're not going to cause they're not trying to cause problems with people. They just want to preserve the white race. I still don't understand the importance of it, but for them, it's a very important thing. And this is where I say religion comes in. So it's sort of like a religion in this case. This collectivism is similar to a religion when you believe it. Now, I'm not saying that individuality is all perfect either, but I'm just focused on collectivism here. It connects the white race, and it's interesting how this all links in, because in Mein Kampf, Hitler starts talking about how the German people are, although not perfect, because he wanted the Aryan race, so people in Britain, there's quite a lot of the Aryan race, but they were still a good example to have as his people, as to set up a new land. And he didn't actually want to go to war with Britain originally, because again, the Aryan race was there, and that, for those who are listening, that they're like white people basically. They're the sort of ideal race that he wanted. And so he wanted to sort out Germany, make it the dominant force, and then move into Russia, invade there, and then basically have all the land for the Germans and the Aryan race and the white race and grow. And he did fear that the Jewish, the Marxist thinking, all these sort of things could end up taking over. And it's quite interesting that today, communism and Marxism has sort of come back. Again, I'm not going to take sides here. It's just interesting to see that the pattern. So even Hitler, no matter what your views on him, predicted some things that occurred. Whether the right race is in danger, that remains to be said. But that's what he puts across here. So I just thought it was interesting. I just thought I'd share that about religion, basically, and how it sort of works, because there are pros to it. Like I said, it gives people a reason to connect with one another. It gives you it connects people, kinship, exactly. Whereas, negative, you can become blinded by it because you become so collective, you end up dying for it. Like, for instance, Nazism is a good example, or Muslims blowing people up. These are fringe groups. I mean, I know Nazism wasn't just a fringe; it was a big thing. But it's just interesting to see that there are pros and cons of it. And I think today, the whole reason I do these videos is because religion hasn't got so much of an influence on people, but they still have their ideologies, and how their ideologies are replaced by different things. So for some people, like the atheist community, it can be science. So they take that as a blinding, that's their religion now. And they sort of attack people with religious views. And I'm not saying that they're wrong, they're right. It's just, again, it's just a view. Or people on the left, or people on the right. Again, they haven't religion, so they take that leftist view or that right wing view, and that's their baby. That's what connects them to other right wing. If you're not part of me, you're not part of the group. I'm gonna have to fight you. I don't like that, and that's just what you see in society today. Anyway, I kept you enough, so hope you enjoyed this short video, and thanks for listening.